All right, we're live now.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome. This is the 3 o'clock. It's public safety meeting, Thursday, April 8th. Um, our chair had a personal emergency. He could get off the island with his family.
On the way down here, I passed 10 violations between 30th and this point. I took pictures of me and had time. We realized we couldn't get off the island, so we called the other couple and said, you can get on that island, but we can't get off. So they came over here, parked at our house, and then we went. The police told me that if that was not an illegal parking violation, to block the mailbox. So later in the day, I was headed somewhere. So later in the day, I did research and found out that it is in fact a federal law that's illegal to do anything that handles the delivery of mail. I called the Isle of Palms police back and told them, and they said the police don't enforce this, and to call the post office. So I guess now the post office enforces parking. Mail carrier told me 2 weeks ago that it normally takes them 1 hour to deliver the mail on 21st to 41st Street. But when the beach is in full swing and all the parking places are taken, it takes him 3 hours. Sometimes he can't get to the mailbox, so he has to get out, leave his truck in the road and walk out. I could go on, there's more about that, but my time's almost up. I just want to tell you that the housekeeping crew from our rental house recently, the employees said they didn't want to mess with the traffic. They didn't make money sitting in the traffic, and so they quit. So I had to find another house company. Another housekeeping crew. The first time they came, the owner called me and she said, my rate just went up $50 for each housekeeper because of the time they have to sit in the traffic to get here. So that's likely a problem as well. People were trying to find shortcuts to get around the traffic on Boulevard yesterday. They were coming down Cameron Boulevard, dodging golf carts, speeding around walkers, and children playing basketball and riding bikes, and people walking their dogs and jogging, and they were running stop signs. So this is my quality of life because of this situation. I just want to let the committee know of all the issues that are involved in safety and quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a copy of your written report, and it's usually helpful for the clerk.
Well, listen, this is an email that I sent to the Barry Island Preservation.
Okay,
And I do speak to them today about this.
okay.
It's not me speaking on behalf of the Larchwood.
Email it to us.
You can state your name, address, if you're comfortable, and we've got 3 minutes.
Sure. My name is Laura Levins. I'm a full-time resident. I live at 5 Links Clubhouse Court in Wild Dunes. The 2-mile section of 703 Palm Boulevard from the connector to 41st Street was never designed to be a parking lot. It is supposed to provide everyone with access to and from the island, yet it has become a parking lot. Since 2010, the IOP population has increased 6%, while Mount Pleasant's population has grown by over 40%. Even before this current overreach by SCDOT to use, their overreach, we as residents have been used to beach traffic delays of up to 2 hours, by the way, when we're trying to get on and off the island. The current plan to increase parking on the west side of Palm Boulevard with angled parking is unconscionable and is frankly a plan by state officials, i.e. Christy Hall, who have there's no backlash for them when this happens because they don't live here. They don't have to deal with the negative outcome of it, and they don't have to deal with, again, the lack of accessibility that we as residents experience. One of the things that I'm particularly concerned about is how are emergency vehicles, not irregardless of my issues, how are emergency vehicles going to be able to access the island? With the parallel parking, at least there's a little bit of room for vehicles to move over to the side if someone's trying to come through. But with this angle parking plan, where the heck are people are supposed to move to get out of the way for emergency vehicles? Are they going to end up on the sidewalks? And using waterfront as an option is not an option anymore because everybody has discovered that that's the back route and the traffic backs up just as badly there. Yesterday, I experienced the same issues that Glenda did. I was trying to go to the grocery store and it was 4 o'clock and everybody was trying to get off the island. And I came back on Waterway and it was a parking lot back there, even coming home, and that was at 5 o'clock. The residents from areas outside of IOP say it's not fair to restrict parking on or for beach access. We as tax-paying residents of IOP say it's not fair to exacerbate an already impossible parking and traffic nightmare by creating more parking for non-resident use. I implore that the council do the right thing for your voting, tax-paying IOP residents and not cave to outside special interests on this parking issue. Thank you.
McKnight, Isle of Palms. I have three different issues. The first is with regards to the SCDOT coming down on Monday. I'd like to know when they're coming. If I can tag along, I don't interfere, but I'll be happy. I'd like to tag along. Secondly, this is an issue that goes back 4 years. I came to this committee 4 years ago, sent pictures in showing the problem on Palm Boulevard with regards to parking between 53rd and 57th Street. Actually, it was, at that time, it was 41st Street up to 57th. The lack of the 4-foot setback as well as lack of sightlines coming out of the beach access path. From 53rd to 57th, there's still no setback, and there was sightlines allowed, but it was only 15 feet. I'm sorry, Randy had to leave because I showed him when we were doing our little tour here a week ago. The sightlines for the streets are much larger. They're like 45 or 50 feet. It ought to be at least that for a pedestrian, especially smaller children trying to look up the street. So we need to have, needs to be done now, sightlines that allow somebody to look to see what traffic coming out of the beach access path. And understand that theoretically the 4-foot setback is going to take place after SCDOT does something with the ditches. There's absolutely no reason why that can't be done now. Whenever SCDOT gets around to dealing with the ditches, it's fine. But the 4-foot setback ought to be put in place because it's extremely hazardous. And yesterday, while I got to the beach, almost mimicked the car I photographed 4 years ago. It was 2 inches off the pavement and parked up right against the 15-foot setback. So extremely hazardous situation. Finally, I was watching a meeting a week or two ago. Desiree was extremely happy that we get rid of 2 signs when we have new parking. Unfortunately, Desiree came up with a list of 5 signs that need to replace the 2 or 3 that you take down. If you don't have the signage, you're gonna have a problem with enforcement. You need to have, starting with parking only in designated spaces. That's almost a must. No backing onto the road, the paved road. You have an asterisk there referencing SC 56-5-2550. No driving on the sidewalk. If you don't have that, you know they're gonna pull up and go out there. Walk only on sidewalks and see against SC 56-5-3160. Talks about walking on highways and so forth. No driving or obstructing private driveways. I don't know this, but I understand there's supposed to be a thing that you're not allowed to drive on. Public isn't allowed to drive on the private driveways. It's obviously, you drive up and down, short window saw it, driving down through here, and there were several places where people were parked, encroaching on somebody else's driveway. So those are signs that need to go up. Order that I've read them to you, kind of the priority that needs to be. So those are my issues. one other issue, uh, going out to the beach. I mentioned to the mayor coming in today, we need to start a campaign that says if you brought it, take it. Walking the beach early this morning and there's all sorts of debris out there that obviously was left from yesterday and, things that are 2 feet by 3 feet, unbelievable. So we need to have that. We also need to have a reminder to stay off of private property. I was talking to a couple of people that own properties over there and they taught me horror stories of people coming and using their property, which they have no right to do so. Those are some of my suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming today. Our next item in old business, A, discussion of parking on the non-ocean side of Pond Boulevard between 22nd and 40th Avenue. I don't know if there's-
I think this was something that, the chair, Randy Bell wanted to discuss, and I'll just, give you all an update since the last meeting. As you all know, we received that proposal from DOT about the Ingle parking. I want to address some of the comments that were made and maybe offer a little bit of clarification. There was a question made about, or concerns raised about vehicles driving onto the sidewalk. The proposal includes some parking stops delineating each parking space, and that would not only allow and delineate where each parking space and where people are legally allowed to park, but it would also prohibit folks from driving on the side of on the side or on the sidewalk to exit the parking space. The proposed plan also pushes the parking away from the pavement, even farther away than we currently have a 4 feet off. A 4 feet off, and of course for safety purposes. We will be meeting with DOT engineers on site to evaluate the proposed angle. There may be some adjustments that need to be made on the field to ensure that the angle parking happens safely. But currently, just as information for all of you, the right of way on Palm Boulevard is 100 feet long. So that means 50 feet on each side from the middle of the pavement. So there's a wide area right there of about 35 feet between the edge of the pavement and the sidewalk, where the angle parking will be accommodated, and there should be enough space to allow for a shoulder to be opened up for vehicles to move in and give space for emergency vehicles. There are some areas that have some encroachments, obviously, that we may need to be needing to address, that may be shortening that area. So that's why the on-field assessment is so important, to take a look at it, each space individually. Chief Cornett and I have been in constant communication. We also received a sign plan. And just like Mr. McKnight, we have some suggestions about and thoughts about the signage, appropriate signage, and we'll be working through that this week.
Desiree, when's your meeting with DOT?
It's next week. It hasn't been confirmed yet. I don't know, like, it hasn't been confirmed yet. We know it's next week, but we're waiting for an hour.
Any questions?
We're meeting with a group of engineers from DOT.
Paul, will be here?
I don't think so. It'll be folks on the ground. And
That'll actually be drawn the detailed plan.
Correct.
Google map plan at the start, but find details of that.
that would be the goal.
Well, invite Mrs. Paul.
She has,
Yeah, so, sure she don't want to come in or.
well, she has come here, every time we have had meetings, she has always been, very happy to drive over to our office and meet us over here, rather than us going to Columbia.
Update on golf cart and low speed vehicle regulations, Chief?
Good afternoon, everybody. So, as you all know, we were asked to look into our golf carts, excuse me, and how we were proactively enforcing those, as Charleston was taking on a proactive approach we wanted to kind of mimic what they were doing. So we have already begun that, putting literature on golf carts that were parked that were not registered. And starting next week, we'll start ticketing for vehicles that do not have those registrations on a more proactive approach for golf carts and low-speed vehicles. Low-speed vehicles typically have a tag, so they're already registered, but the golf carts are typically not registered, even though they are required to do so by law. So we're going to proactively address that along with other golf cart regulations. Our team has been gearing up, looking at the different laws and the brochures we have and disseminating information as we've been able to go around. Next week is our time to go forward with tickets. Are there any questions on it?
I'm assuming that will include tickets going over the connector.
Actually, the golf carts are not allowed on the connector. I know we've seen.
We all know that.
But, and I think we've made friends with one individual that did. But I've seen a couple of pictures, so if you see it, what I would ask anybody is when you see those pictures or somebody communicates that to you, it works best for us if you call while it's happening. A lot of times we don't see those pictures until the next day. We can't do anything about it then.
Well, I know you hear this over and over, and I don't mean to beat the dead horse to death, but, I just see so many kids driving these cars, and I see instances of parents having little kids sitting in their lap, letting them steer a golf cart. And then
That you shared it, and it's a legitimate concern. I've seen it myself. That is part of our proactive approach, just to not only address registration, but heavily enforce all golf cart regulations on the island outside of Wildwood.
You can stay there for this next one, or Desiree. New business consideration of replacement tables and chairs for the public.
Filled that himself. So the current setup that we have in our training room right now, those tables and chairs are original to the building being built. They got some years on them. But I would express to you guys is that room is so much more than just a training room for fire and police. We do utilize it for community events. We utilize it for other city departments to come in and do training and hold meetings. And more than all of that is the use of that room as the MEAC during major storms and events. So when you're looking at this and if you have the same package, which I'm sure that you do, you have the three quotes. You'll see that this particular set of tables and chairs is equal to that of what we've had, which has held up really well over the years. It is a little more heavy duty for what we do before. These also have the table with the built-in power outlets as well as the for your computers, which would allow us to, be able to utilize that more in the MEAC. In the building project, we have done a lot of upgrades to that space with technologies and everything else. So we just saw this as an opportunity to try to do what's inevitable anyways, because it's showing some wear. We got chairs that are not doing so well right now. So we wanted to try to replace it with like materials of what's already there, something that's durable. These also move very easily, so we're not tearing up the floor every time we have to rearrange the room, which is so everything in to do with this is in your package. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
So we've got 3 bids and we're going to go with Harold. And
Yes.
so they're like everything else right now. So their bid is good through the end of March. They're gonna.
No, they told me there's not gonna be any change in the time that we're doing the same. What's funny is all 3 of these companies told us this is state contract pricing, it's all 3 different pricing. So I don't know how that came out, but there it is.
And to approve. I'll second that. Is this a budgeted item?
One budget, but it is something that we create as part of our public safety building renovation. Because it is just like, Deputy Chief Hathaway indicated, it would be part of the improvement and the enhancements that we have made to the training room.
as part of the building renovation project. So it would come out, if approved by Ways and Means and Council by the end of the month. It could come from the contingency that we still have, for the building renovation project.
Which is 400,000 in it.
Yes, it is, we're talking about around 600, 700,000. Have used it for other, we have tapped into that for other small projects, so I don't have a specific number of where we are today, but, we're in that range.
It's a, perhaps. Any other questions or comments? We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Yeah, thank you. Last item is, department reports. And we come back.
Sorry for you guys, I'll do it like I did last month, keep it brief. So for March, we ran a total of 69 calls, that's up 27% from the year prior. Total calls for the year, 155, which is up 9% from the year prior at 142. As always, this report is just full of analytics. You guys are welcome to look through it. If you want, I can read through some of the highlights. If not, I can answer your question.
Why don't you give us some of the highlights?
All right, well, as always, we're continuing to maintain situation awareness concerning COVID-19. We're doing very well on our supplies for personal PPE for treating calls. We did participate in the meeting that Mr. Fregoso spoke of earlier with the South Carolina Department of Transportation Secretary Hall, as well as some of the engineers regarding the parking configurations. So our fire crews responded to a report of the kite surfer down. Our season has started quite early this year. Concerning, you guys are all aware with the traffic. It's earlier this year than it has been in the years prior. So, responding to kite surfers, responding to a structure fire in Sullivan's Island. Personnel assisted with firefighting as well as salvage and overall. Excuse me, as I try to read through some of it. We've had a few calls for smell of propane. Responded to a restaurant on Ocean Boulevard. Found that there was a motor that had gone bad on one of the refrigerators. DC power to that. Had the manager notated to call and have someone fix it. Did have a pretty good sized motor vehicle accident on 41st Avenue. One vehicle involved with 3 other vehicles in a tree. The only person that was affected as a patient was the occupant of the vehicle that was driving. Possible structure fire on the Coastal Court, March 18th. Told by the homeowner there was a odor of electrical smoke. They found that the homeowner had replaced a light bulb. They didn't replace it all the way complete. It was close to another piece of furniture and the wood was getting hot. So, that's majority of those. The rest of it's all going to be your analytics. Question?
No, it's notation. I think it was, I think March 24th last year, everything shut down. So that's going to be reflected in the report.
Keep in mind that at the same time this year, the stay-at-home order for taking in, and after that, we had a period where we got checkpoints.
Right.
At the end of the semester, so.
I'll tell you where you're going to see the difference when you start hitting into June through August. You're going to see a total difference. All numbers, especially if we keep going the way we're going. As busy as we are, it's going to highly increase this year, we expect. Yeah. And last year would have been probably record low.
All right, right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Cordet.
I did want to point out real quick, we're going to start doing things slightly different for the public safety reports. I think it is fair to get our deputy chiefs and our other command posts, command staff officers from the police department side, opportunities to come up here and present the council so they get that experience and knowledge to help them for professional growth. So next month, you'll see Lieutenant Forsyth or Captain Swain and Deputy Chief Smith will be here next month. Thank you. Some of the things to point out for the police report, we participate in Read Across America. We read books at the rec center to some of the kids. We also participated in the polar plunge to raise money for Special Olympics. We went in front of the board for CALEA to testify in reference to attaining our reaccreditation for CALIA, and we did successfully retain that accreditation. Also, in the month of March, we did recognize Engineer Rourke and Officer Air as Employee of the Quarter for the fire department and for the police department for the first quarter of 2021. Some of the big things to point out are that there were 10 drug charges, 5 DUIs, and 767 parking citations for the month of March. Look at our parking tickets, they are significantly higher than they were at this point last year, as well as our calls for service are 944 for the month. That is lower than it was last year. Last year at this time, we had 1,112. So, the other part would be our charges. Our charges were 100 for the month so far, and that would include 5 DUIs that we've had. And our DUIs, as you look on the other pages, you can kind of see the graphs that are tracking our DUIs and our gun violations. And so far this year, we are on par to have higher number of DUI charges than we did last year. We're already excelling those numbers compared to last year. The second graph you'd see on that page would be your parking citations. And I know that gets hard to read if you don't have color printing, but we can kind of print those out for you. Obviously, the highest number would be for meter violation, followed by 4 foot off pavement, and then residential only tickets are the top 3 citations that are issued on the island. The next graph you would see would be for animal control. I know those are some concerns, and those kind of lay out the different months for you on the calls for service. So you can kind of see what's what there. And then the last thing would be the analytical map for incidents reported. The red area being the area with the most incidents that were reported. Blue areas at the least amount. Any questions for me? Yes.
And I think it's a really good idea that you stated,
We have a lot of phenomenal employees, both in the fire department and the police department. It's a great way to show them throughout the year that, hey, we appreciate the sacrifice you made and the dedication you have to our cities. Thank you very much.
And Chief, you're gonna continue to do the heat map
Yes, sir.
every month. I mean, it doesn't change
It really does stay very similar.
year over year, actually.
We had one hiccup when we switched the RMS companies and it was not uploading the incident reports to the crime map. I believe we got that fixed. We had a phone conference all about it yesterday, and I think it's all ready to go now. Thank you.
Miscellaneous business. Our next meeting is 10 a.m. Thursday, May 6th. Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All